Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my co-author on this bill, Congresswoman Maloney, for her great leadership on this legislation, as well as Chairman Huizinga, Chairman Henserling, the Ranking Member Waters, and the entire Financial Services team for their hard work on this important legislation. Mr. Speaker, it's a rare occasion in Washington when Republicans and Democrats can come together and get behind a change to the banking regulations. But we stand here today behind H.R. 1624 because the banking regulators, frankly, well, they messed it up. They created a rule that gives foreign municipalities a competitive advantages over our American cities and towns. And this advantage is hurting our communities. Mr. Speaker, this legislation is really quite simple. It will help cities and towns in my state and across the United States save money on roads and bridges and schools. President Trump has made rebuilding our infrastructure a priority for our nation. And this bipartisan bill paves the way for this type of investment by lowering the price tag for roads and bridges. H.R. 1624 reverses a backwards banking regulation that makes it more expensive for U.S. municipalities to finance infrastructure projects. Specifically, the bill will amend the regulation to enable more banks to hold municipal bonds to cover their liquidity requirements. And this change should reduce the cost of borrowing for cities and towns across the country. Ultimately, this bill helps taxpayers by making it cheaper to finance infrastructure projects. H.R. 1624 will help blue states and red states alike. And that's why you've seen such overwhelming bipartisan support for this in the halls of Congress. The bill passed the Financial Services Committee unanimously this summer. And very similar legislation passed the chamber by a voice vote last year. Still, we've got more work to do, and there is now momentum in the Senate to get H.R. 1624 across the finish line. The bill is also supported by numerous outside advocacy groups, including the National Governors Association, the Government Finance Officers Association, the National League of Cities, the National Association of State Treasurers, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and even the state treasurer from my home state of Indiana, my good friend Kelly Mitchell. Mr. Speaker, today we take the first step in this process in the House toward reversing this backwards regulation. I urge all my colleagues to support this bipartisan bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.